You're live.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sounds great. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Planning and Development Committee meeting of Wednesday, January 6, 2021. Consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning gatherings of more than 10 people, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation to the greatest extent possible. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time. Persons who wish to do so are invited to view the meeting. The information is on the website. If you need to speak, if we decide to allow questions, then what we will do is we will ask you to raise your hand, or if you're calling in, simply hit #9. So in terms of counselors right now, on the subcommittee are Jen Holgram, Barry Pett, and me. And I see Council President LeBlanc is attending, and Councilor at Large John McCarthy as well. Happy to have Vanessa Krazak on the phone, our interim CAO. And Deb Eliason is the attorney. We'll discuss that in just a few minutes. And Grace Poirier is our assistant city clerk. So let's get started. I'd like to begin by discussing what we won't be covering today, so we can just go through that. First of all, Special Council Permit 2020-006, Schoolhouse Road, number 2 through 4, map 264, lots 37 and 38. Modifications of Special Council Permit 2017-012 pursuant to GZO section 5.29.3.3. Additional uses, 5.29.6.1 off-street parking requirements, 5.29.10 relief by special permit, 5.17 and 5.29.0 drive-through facilities, and 4.3 sign regulations to allocate parking spaces, obtain a new drive-through permit, and relief from signage requirements in the R10 mixed-use overlay district. We were going to be reviewing the recommendation of the December 17th Planning Board meeting and to schedule a site visit. However, the Planning Board is not taking this up until tomorrow. So we will not be doing that tonight. So we will be continuing that to our next meeting. Attorney Favazza is aware we discussed this a couple of days ago. The next order that was on our agenda is RZ 2020-001, proposed creation of a commuter residential overlay district to all lots currently zoned EB in and around Maplewood Ave and Whistle Stop Way, and that is to be continued until January 20th, 2021. So those are the things we're not covering. So now we're ready to move on to the item that we're here to discuss tonight, which is Special Council Permit 2020-002, Essex Ave, number 99A, map 216, lot 126, GZO, section 3.1.6B, building heights in excess of 35 feet, section 2.3.4, number 13, marine-related service, storage, or repair, limited primarily in the MI district to commercial fishing vessels, section 5.5, lowland requirements, section 5.5.2, and section 5.5.3 in the EB district. And this has all been continued from December 2nd, 2020. And we had a site visit, 3 site visits on December 10th, and one on the morning of December 11th. And one of our major objectives tonight is to go through the questions, and we've collected them from all 3 of the meetings, and we've submitted them to the applicant. And Deb Ellison, our attorney representing this applicant, is here to review the questions and the answers and to make sure that counselors have asked all of our questions prior to making a recommendation to the full city council. So without further ado, I think, Deb, we can start with the questions, and then counselors, we can decide if we need additional information or review of the material prior to making a decision if we're prepared to recommend this to the full council. I will just check the participants list of attendees because I know that there's an interest of that. It looks like we have Tobin Dominic on the phone representing Cape Ann Marina. We've got Steve Aiello, who's his sons are abutters. Paul Coleman is an abutter. Patrick Hurd is an abutter, I believe. And then we have additional members of the public, Marianne Butcher, Karen Theo, John Peterson, and Denise Pascusi. I know there's been an interest from the public to know who is watching. Patrick Hurd has his hand raised. I'm not sure why, but because this is not a public hearing, but
You may want to clarify, Madam Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt. He is, I believe, the general manager of the marina, not an abutter.
oh, okay. I'm sorry. It was Patrick who joined us on the site visit.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Patrick, would you like to enter in? Is that possible, Grace, to allow Patrick to enter into the?
I don't think he needs to at this point.
Okay, so he's just showing that he is here and that's who he is. Okay.
I believe that was the issue.
Okay, terrific. Thanks for clarifying, Deb. All right, so I think we've done our introductions, and we do have a quorum of the full city council because there are 5 of us here of 9. So Deb, why don't you start by presenting the questions and reviewing the answers, and then counselors, we can stop at all those questions and ask follow-up questions. I think that might be easiest rather than waiting. Does that make sense to you, Barry and Jen? Okay. All right, great.
You're saying to to ask questions as we go along versus waiting to the end.
Exactly. I think
Yes, that would be best.
Okay.
Especially for those of us without great memories.
Okay. That's not you, Barry. All right. So Deb, why don't you begin? So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Deborah Ellison, Ellison Law Office, 63 Middle Street, Gloucester. If I might share my screen with you.
We've got it.
Okay. I need to make it bigger. Oh, that's not what I want. Sorry, I'm trying to get this one bigger.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
And I'm going to make that smaller. Okay, so the applicant, as you know, is Dominic Holdings LLP, and the managers of the LLP are Tobin and Drew Dominic, and they are both here tonight to answer any questions that may come up. The engineer is John Judd from Gateway Construction, and he is also going to be here tonight. I don't think he's here quite yet. The architect is Troika Studio, and John Peterson is here on behalf of Troika, and I am going to ask that he be let in as a panelist when we get to the issue of discussing the shadow study. And the contractor for the construction is Timberline Construction. So tonight, what we'd like to do is go through the site visit questions, give you a brief project summary of the project to remind you, since we haven't been here since May of 2020, going over it, and to briefly go through the legal criteria and to answer any questions that you might have. So as you recall, this is in red is the property that we're talking about. And this is in red, the building that is going to be on that particular lot, which is 99A Essex Avenue. We are seeking from the City Council a special permit for marine-related storage, a special permit for lowland requirements, a special permit for the approval of height over 35 feet, and the concurrence with the relocation of the parking easement for the Beauport Hotel. And Just to briefly give you an update on the status of the permitting, there was a unanimous approval of the ZBA for a right side variance that allows a 0 setback along the property line of other property owned by the marina. And that means that the building will conform to both front yard setbacks along Essex Avenue and Julian Road. It has to conform to both front yards on both of those roads. The Concom also unanimously approved an order of conditions and also an amended order of conditions, and DEP is withdrawing its appeal with regard to the plan. They're happy with the amended plan. And the Planning Board unanimously approved the site plan review. So these are the boards that look at commercial projects, residential projects throughout the city. And they're the boards that understand the impact that these projects will have on the city, and we have unanimous approval from all of them. This is a list of the questions that were asked at the site visit, and we filed with the Planning and Development Committee answers to these questions, which I will go through. And what I'm going to do is pull up the document that has the answers on them so that people can read them if I speak too fast or go over it too quickly. So the first question, and please, members of P&D, if you have questions as we go through each of these, please feel free to stop me at any time and we can elaborate. So the first question was to explain the borders of the property. So we added in the site plan, and you can see that it's a rectangle. There are 2 corners along Essex Avenue, and the 2 rear corners are more toward the riverside. There was a question with regard to the height at the corners and the height of the peak of the roof. The height at the corners are 40 feet, and the peak at the roof in the middle, which is the highest point of the building, is 55 feet. And a question of what the length and the width are. The length is 240 feet and the width is 143 feet. And that width is parallel to Essex Avenue.
Okay, so let's pause. Any questions, Jen and Barry, on that? No? Okay, and John, if either John and Steve have any questions to ask of any of these questions, feel free to Steve, do you have a question on?
No, I'm good, but I will, I'll put my hand up if I do. Thank you, Val.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I do have a question, Deb, and I think I know the answer. But go ahead. My question to you is, in the information that you presented to the zoning board, the plan at that point was to do this in 2 phases.
Yes.
So is that no longer the case in this?
I believe it is still the plan, and that will depend upon finances. And so the first phase, if it is done in 2 phases, would be the back part of the building. And then the front part would be done as a second phase.
Okay. And when would we know?
Okay, I had a question.
Okay, go ahead, Barry. Council Pett, go ahead. You can ask your question.
I'm sorry. No, I'm finish your question. Go ahead.
No, my
Okay.
question was.
Deb, I'm sorry.
So my question was, when would we know about the sequence in terms of when this each phase would occur?
As I said, it would really depend upon the financing. And so it could have just one of the buildings or both of the buildings. We sought the permitting of both at the same time because we wanted you to know what the ultimate goal was and to not do it piecemeal and come in and show you only half of it and then come in later for the other half.
Okay.
So that's why we showed the entire thing.
Okay, so the first half would be the half that has the major door to get into, correct?
Yes.
So it would still be, you would still be able to use it for the first half.
Correct. And there would be a small side door also on the marina side. So it would have a small door as well as the main door.
Okay, that's helpful.
Madam Chair, for the purpose of the minutes, I want to make sure that we're specifying whether it's the south side of the building, the north side of the building, et cetera.
That's helpful. Thanks, Jen. That's something that Dana would always ask us.
And I'm not sure I have an arrow on here, but I.
That would be,
can
the
say
east side of the building would be first, correct?
It would
The
be,
east side of the building would be first?
it would be the building the part of the building that's closer to the river.
That sounds like southeast.
That's the east. That's the eastern half of the building.
Okay, we'll make sure that that is correct. It sounds like Barry knows what he's talking about, but it's the riverside.
It's the river side of the building, the river part closest to the river. Unfortunately, as I said, it doesn't have an arrow on it. We could add Tobin if you want to have that question answered. I'm certain she knows off the top of her head.
Okay, I think as long as we know what we're talking about, we're good. It's the riverside.
Okay.
Council Holgram, you seem like you want Tobin to answer that question?
No, that sounds right. I mean, looking at the map, it does look like the riverside. Thank you, which is east. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Tobin has indicated to me on text that it's northeast.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Well, that's perfect for the minute, so thank you. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thanks. Barry, you had your hand raised, so go ahead. Do you have a
Yeah,
question?
I had my hand up, and again, I was waiting for the questions to start, but on your previous slide, when you had talked, you had shown the what the zoning board had authorized.
Yes.
And I saw that they had given the 0 setbacks for both on the frontal on Essex Avenue for both the marina, the Essex Avenue Marina side property and the Julian Road side. But was there any change on the setbacks on the Julian Road side of the building?
The original request had the building closer to Julian Road, and there was a request for a setback variance on the Julian Road side. The zoning board asked us to move the building closer to the marina property, which we did, and gave us a 0 setback variance on the marina side, so that both Julian Road and Essex Avenue met the frontage requirements of the front yard setbacks of 30 feet. The building was also moved.
Okay, thank you.
The building was also moved back closer to the river. We were seeking a variance also from Essex Ave, and it has been moved back.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we're ready to continue. That was helpful, thanks.
Okay. The next question is, what influenced the decision to select the location for this proposed boat storage facility? And the Dominics gave a lot of thought to the building location, and there are many factors that dictate the location of this building. For example, there's a need and a desire to minimize the disturbance of environmentally sensitive marsh and tidal flats. And in order to properly load and unload the building, there needs to be a clear path of travel that's free of obstruction, traffic, and pedestrians. And to make this work operationally and fiscally, Dominic Holdings purchased 99A Essex Avenue for boat storage purposes. The building must be sited so it doesn't interfere with the existing and abutting property, which is owned by a separate entity, Dominic Unlimited, which includes the marina, restaurant, hotel, and boatyard. Each of those uses have their own existing operational requirements for traffic flow, fire lanes, etc. So the new building does not interfere with the 75 Essex Avenue existing operations. The building needs to be entirely on 99A Essex Avenue. And in order to move the boats to and from the building to the boatyard without interfering with the existing traffic patterns and safety, the proposed location is the only realistic option. The size and the height of the building is driven by 2 factors. The overall footprint is necessary to make the project economically feasible. And 2, operationally, the building must be of a sufficient size and height to accommodate the interior movement and storage of the boats that it will house. If the building's too small, it won't support the expense, investment, and purpose of offering indoor storage. The existing customers that cannot be accommodated for indoor winter storage at the marina go elsewhere outside of Gloucester. Most of their boats are too large or too tall to travel over land to an inland storage facility, and they don't fit in the average size garage. A building of less size and height will not meet the local demand and will not be economically feasible. And even though the building footprint is 240 feet by 143 feet, to make it work, there needs to be a straight runway in addition to the building of 130 feet outside the main door. And that allows large boats to be loaded on trailers, including the equipment, outside the main door so it's straightened out and then brought into the building. The length required to load is into a free-span building with minimal turning of the vessel, then expands the outside footprint by 130 feet. And that's why it's important that the building not be moved closer to the river, because you need that unobstructed area. Thus, operationally, you needed 240 feet plus the 130 feet for it to work. The main door placement needs to be at the peak of the roof, not to the side, so it accommodates the heights of boats that are seeking interior storage, and for ease of function to move the boats throughout the building. Once inside, the boats are placed end to end in a straight line and side by side. And this image was intended to be included in the package and was neglected. This is just a sample of how the boats will be stored inside. There can be a variety of sizes, but this is just one example. So once any placement closer to the salt marsh and the coastal buffer zone also raises more environmental concerns, as well as not being functional to get in and out of the building. So that was a lot of information. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that.
Yeah, well, let's ask. Barry or Jen, do you have any questions about that? I
No,
don't.
thank you.
You okay, Jen? I don't see you. Oh, there you are. Okay, now I see you. Barry, any questions? Are you okay? You good? Okay, great. Continue.
The next question was, are there easements or zoning restrictions? 99A Essex Avenue is within the city's extensive business zoning district, and it's comprised largely of filled tide lands that require any use to obtain a Chapter 91 license from the state. Both of these severely restrict the uses that are allowed on the property. In general, residential uses are not allowed in the EB district. It is for business, service, and retail uses serving a regional clientele. The proposed use fits squarely within the purposes of this district, and Chapter 91 further restricts the allowed uses by favoring water-dependent uses. Water-dependent projects are presumed to have a public purpose, proper public purpose. There's also an easement that benefits the Beauport Hotel that allows parking for up to 50 cars. That's located on 99A Essex Avenue and 6 Julian Road. And I've explained that further down in the questions where there's a specific question related to that easement.
Okay, councilors, any questions about that? Nope. Okay, continue. Thank you.
Can you explain why aerial lift machines were used to indicate the height as opposed to balloons? Equipment and cranes were used with marking flags because they signified the corner and peak height more precisely. With balloons, you would have had deflection due to wind, and it would not have allowed an accurate view of the height.
Okay.
Can you highlight what abutters may see in regard to the new building, including the views from the remote neighborhood? The neighbors at the corner of Essex Ave and Julian Road at 101 Essex Avenue will be closest to the northwest corner, where there will be glass windows that wrap around the corner of the building. However, because of the large frontal setback and the angle of the neighbor's house, the side of the building will be a very small portion of overlap to their house. Currently, the neighbor's trees block that angle in which the building could be seen, resulting in a minimal impact, if any. The neighbors at 4 Julian Road have 85 feet from the front steps to the edge of the building. From their side windows and backyard, there'll be the same view to the river that there is now, due northeast. The view is not obstructed by the building. Looking out from their property to the east, they will see the corner of the building, which will be their right side view. It's hard for us to determine what effect, if any, the building would have on more distant neighborhoods. The neighborhood behind the commercial buildings across Essex Ave are quite a distance from the site and are at a much higher elevation, They're also surrounded by large area of mature trees. So it would really be speculation on our part to answer this question with regard to those distant neighborhoods.
Okay, councilors, any questions? Okay, no, go ahead, continue, Deb, thanks.
Where is the main door of the building? What is the height of the main door? The main door where the majority of the boats will enter and exit is on the north end, northeast end, closest to the water. The door is in the middle of the building to maximize the height under the peak. And when the door is open, the height will be max at 45 feet. Where are the two smaller doors? There are two smaller garage doors along the length of the building facing the boatyard, and there are no garage doors on Julian Road. Can you illustrate how the transport carrier will maneuver the large size boats into the storage facility? This is an illustration that was included at slide 24. And I'm also going to attempt to show you a clip of a boat coming out on a trailer out of the existing repair building, so you can see how it has to maneuver and why it needs a lot of area. So let me see if I can show that clip to you. I think it's hiding here. Are you able to see that?
No,
No. Okay. Let me see if I may have to go to a different share screen.
while you're looking, let me just summarize the site visits a little bit, just because I think it's important. We had 3 sessions. The first session, Council Gilman, Holgram, Pat McCarthy, and Memard were there. In the third session, the next morning, was me, Council Cox, and O'Hara. And members, the abutters that were in attendance included Peter Conovo from 103 Essex Ave. He was in the first session. In the second session, which was at 3:30 on the 10th, abutters Peter Coleman, abutters Alex ALO and Aaron ALO for Julian Road, as well as Steve Ann and Isaac ALO. And then on the third day, there were no abutters, but representing the applicant included Patrick Hurd, the GM, Drew and Tobin Dominic, owners John Judd, Drew and Tobin Dominic, the owners, John Judd, civil engineer, Gateway Consultants, and Deb Ellison, attorney. So just wanted to mention that while we had a little bit of time. So are
you seeing it now?
I'm seeing what you need to press, I think, to get this on. So do you want to try to hit that button and see?
I did. Do you don't see it though?
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work, unfortunately.
Okay, well, that's okay, because we can go back to the Zoom presentation of the first meeting, right? Because,
Yes.
okay, so we can do that.
Okay.
Thank
Let
you.
me go back to.
Thank you for
what I was
trying.
doing. For the city council meeting, I believe that we can embed it in the presentation, so we may be able to show it there.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So in this slide that was is a reduced slide of what was shown in our prior presentation. The pink is the boat, and then the blue outline is the travel lift that takes the boat out of the water, and then you're able to move it along land. There is also a hydraulic trailer that it gets put on, and then there's a tractor that pulls it along. And there's a small turning radius on this, as you could imagine. It has a turning radius with as much as 60 tons over 5 to 6 axles. So it needs a lot of room, the 130 feet, as we said, to straighten out and get into the building at the large door. Can you explain the function of the 3 doors? The main door takes boats and large equipment in and out. The smaller doors on the sides allows for smaller boats or trailers to be maneuvered in and out to allow for greater flexibility in the operation. And smaller trailer boats are generally more maneuverable than the larger boats and tall boats so that they are able to come out of the small doors. Where are the windows going to be placed? On the southwest side of the proposed building facing Essex Ave and Julian Road. The windows are facing Essex Avenue. On the southwest corner of the building, the windows will wrap the corner and turn to make the building more appealing and interesting to see in it upon the approach from the west on Essex Avenue. What is the height of the Boatworks building with the rounded dome? That height is 40 feet to the peak. How many feet is the proposed building from the actual houses on Julian Road? The building with setback to Julian Road is 30 feet, and Julian Road is a private way that is approximately 40 feet, and the distance to the front door for Julian Road is approximately another 15 feet, making the total distance 85 feet. The distance to the side of the house at 101 Essex Avenue is slightly farther away. What are the dimensions of Julian Road? As I said, Julian Road is a private way, approximately 40 feet wide. Were there conditions to the Zoning Board of Appeals decision? Yes, there is a special condition in the Zoning Board of Appeals decision prohibiting the storage of votes in either front yard setback. So those would be the setbacks along Julian Road and Essex Avenue.
Okay, can we just pause a second?
Yes.
Jen, Barry, other counselors, any questions on any of those? Okay, thanks, Deb. Go ahead.
Okay. What are the lighting plans for the exterior of the building on the side facing Julian Road? Down lighting for security and walking areas is planned for Julian Road. There is no flood lighting needed or planned. On the parking lot side, there may be some down lighting, but it will be lit mostly from existing light poles.
Any questions on that? Because I know that that has been a question as well that's been brought forward from members of the public. No? Okay, so continue. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, and Councilor O'Hara just popped on. So now we have 6 of the 9 members of the council. Welcome, Jamie. Oh, and Sean Nolan is also here. Thank you, Sean.
Hello, everybody. How you doing, Val?
I'm great. I'm glad you're here.
Where is the space in the parking lot reserved for overflow parking of Beauport? On the slide 74 of the May 2020 presentation, the parking is proposed to be moved towards the coastal bank to accommodate the Beauport parking agreement. In my slides, I can find a picture of it if you would like to see that, if that would be helpful.
Counselors, I think Jen is saying yes. So could you show that?
Yes. So this shows in red, shows the parking now. You can see that it is partially on 99A Essex Avenue and partially on 6 Julian Road. The intent is to move it to an area entirely on 6 Julian Road. And the council voted that the parking was appropriate for the Beauport Hotel when it acquired 99A Essex Avenue, 6 Julian Road, and 18 Stewart Road. And the Beauport has only used this parking once since the marina has purchased the property. The marina will be relocating it to another location within the 3 lots that were previously approved by the council. And Beauport has consented to that relocation, and the building inspector has no objection to the relocation.
Okay, Barry and Jen.
I have a question.
Okay, Council Pat.
Yes, the question is, it's not up to me to know what the agreement is between the Beauport and the Cape Ann Marina, but is just if we're allowed, is the marina allowed to use the designated parking area when the boatport is not using it?
According to the agreement, the marina has the unilateral right to relocate the parking temporarily. So if it were using that area and the Beauport decided it needed to park some cars, the marina could say that they could park it in a different location, and that would be fine under the easement agreement.
Okay, I'm not sure if that's, my question is sort of, will there always be space open and not being utilized that is designated for the parking area, regardless of where it may be on, on the number of properties? Or is that space able to be used until, as Beauport says, they're going to need it and you have to move things off of it or that type of thing?
There isn't anything in the easement agreement that would prohibit the marina from using the space when it's not being used by the Beauport Hotel. And so
Okay.
that's the reason for specifically
thank you.
having the right to relocate temporarily.
And one of the things, Deb,
Thank you.
on the slide that you've mentioned before is that parking has only been used once since, in this agreement. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, is that since the marina has purchased it, it has only been used once.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on that? All right, so continue. Thanks, Deb.
Val,
Yep.
I do have a question.
Okay, yeah, because you were on the council back in 2014 too, right?
Yes. So my question is, when we voted for the special council permit for the hotel,
Yeah,
that lot was included in the special council permit. Will this change affect the permit that the council has issued to the Beauport Hotel? Because it was specifically put in a certain area on the property at the time. I just don't want it to interfere. I don't know if we know the answer to that question this evening, but we should find out definitely before Tuesday's council meeting.
That's a
And
great question.
I can respond to that
Okay.
because I have looked at the permits. And if you look at the special council permit and the modifications with regard to the offsite parking and the votes with regard to that, it mentions 99A Essex Avenue,
Mhm.
but it lists all of the assessor's lot map and lot numbers for 99A, 6 Julian Road, and 18 Stewart Road. So my position would be that the council did approve at that time to have the parking located on any of those areas. And it went to the building inspector to determine exactly where it would be within that area. And the building inspector made a determination that he agreed with the 99A and Julian Road location, which it's currently at, and has told us that he has no problems with it being moved to the location that we're proposing. And that would not be finalized, of course, unless and until this permit is granted.
Thank you, Deb. I still would like to request that we hear from our general counsel on this too. I appreciate your answer, Deb, but I still want to make sure that we're not running into any roadblocks from our end on this. So I'd still recommend that we get our general counsel to weigh in on this question, and I will, I can email it to Chip at some point over the next couple of days. So
And
thank you.
If I may just add to that, out of an abundance of caution, we did put in a request for the council to concur on the relocation. So I think if that's necessary, that we have that already before the council.
Right, because we can always create a condition as we move forward, which we might want to do when we see that information.
Thank you.
Council Gilman,
Okay. Yep, Sean, Council Nolan.
in the special city council permit, it actually only lists that one spot. If there was two locations and it was up to the building inspector, it wouldn't be a council rule, but in a condition, it was in that spot. And that spot has been boats only since. Understandably, maybe the Beauport doesn't need to have the backup parking. It's still another matter. What I'd like to see is what the actual condition was, if it did lot A and B, and if that is a matter, because right now, the special city council permit for Beauport Hotel is the parking lot that's filled with boats covered with a shrink wrap, not the other property that's being mentioned. And I'd like to see that as evidence of a written agreement, if there is something, not the building inspector saying, yes, it's all right. It's a special city council permit, and I'd like to make sure that our T's are crossed and our I's are dots.
Okay. Council Holgram and Pat, I assume that you agree with everything Council Nolan said, because it makes sense. So we want to be,
I do.
we want to make sure
Yes.
we've got everything.
Yes, with Councilor Nolan and Council President LeBlanc have said.
Yep. Okay, great. I
Yes.
agree.
And I do just want to point out that it is not only on 99A currently, it is on 6 Julian also. This is the property line right here. So just so that's clear.
Okay, so yeah, so I'll look forward to seeing those original permits that were granted per Councilor LeBlanc's request as well. So, thank you. Anybody else? Someone's talking? No. Okay, continue, Deb. Thank you.
Okay. When will the city council and the general public be able to see the shadowing study? So we presented the shadowing study in the May 2020 presentation. And tonight, what we would like to do is to go through a little of that and also to show you a study that shows it in motion, which was requested at the hearing. So I'd ask that John Peterson be allowed to share his screen because it needs to be done on his computer and it's not something that can be sent. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and
Okay,
ask that he be promoted.
okay. I have a clarification question. When you said at the hearing, what hearing were you talking about?
I'm sorry, at the P&D meeting of May 2020.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for clarification.
Okay, so we have John here to walk us through the shadowing survey analysis.
Good evening, everybody. This is John Peterson with Studio Troika.
Hi,
Let me
John.
share my screen. So before we begin actually going into the shadow studies themselves, I'd like to give you guys a little bit of a background on how we got there. We had 3D scanned the entire property of the Cape Ann Marina, which means we have up to the 1/8 inch detailed information for the entire area. So you all can see the black and white screen. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So what you're seeing here is a scan of the entire marina. So the lot in question, the 99A, is right here in this corner. So if I swivel around a little bit, we've scanned the entire area. So it's far more accurate than the old school way of doing things with a tape measure and a pencil. So we can run through this if need be, but when we started the presentation with the shadow studies, in the presentation in May, we gave these slides, which can be found, and I'll run through a few of them, of certain dates and times of the 4 major turning points of the season. So the 2 solstices and the 2 equinox. So we're going to start with the worst day of the year, which is December, which is the shortest day. And we'll run through a shadow study for this. If you could as well, could you please release Patrick Hurd so he can speak, as he'll be doing most of the talking and I'm going to be doing most of the driving.
Okay, Grace, can you accept him as a panelist? Okay, his hand is raised.
Well, as Patrick's joining, I can kind of give a little detail on what we're going to show.
Okay.
So along with the point cloud scan, we were able,
Good evening.
oh, you're in. Okay. All right, Patrick, you can take
Yeah.
over if you'd like.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so as you can see, what we're looking at is from across the street, basically looking back at Julian Road, and we're starting this study right at about 9 a.m. Or are we at 9 a.m. again, John?
Yes, correct. We are at 9 a.m. at December 22nd.
So I think to start off, what we want to try to make sure that everybody is looking at the same thing and thinking the same thing. So we're looking at shadow study of our project, but within this video, you'll see everybody's shadows, and I think that's important. So as the motion starts, I think it's important to watch that everybody in the neighborhood is casting shadows, and that our shadows, although we are casting shadows, which is impossible not to do, are casting light shadows, although our building may be larger. The shadows that are being cast are in like time with everybody else's. So if we can monitor that as we go forward, I think that'll be helpful for everybody. So John, if you go ahead and start the tape. So the sun is obviously starting to the right of our, or coming up on the right of our screen, and it rises, the shadow will move to the right as well.
Just as a side note from a technical standpoint, as I progress through the shadows, if you guys can follow my cursor down in this lower right-hand corner of this window, there will be a clock that will show you the exact time. So right now we're at 9 o'clock and we're progressing through the morning. 9:30, 10 a.m.
And as
10:30.
each neighbor is coming out of shadow basically at the same time. And as we've left some people out of shadow, there's still other buildings that are in shadow from other neighbors.
Okay, Patrick,
So that would be the worst time of
Patrick,
day.
you're coming in and out.
I'm sorry, could you,
Patrick,
Yeah.
you're coming in and out like it sounds like you're in a tunnel.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're perfectly clear, and then other times you sound garbled. So maybe you could just kind of move your position a little bit, because what you're saying is important to us, and we'd love to be able to
Yeah.
hear every word loud and clear.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Is this better?
That's better right now, yes.
and I would hope that's better.
Okay,
Also, could you also back up the time frame? Again, I'm not sure, I'm not seeing on my screen what time we're at the moment. I don't see where that is on our screen. Other than, I think right now, the only thing I'm seeing, okay, 3, I'm not sure what
Yeah,
that
so
is, but if you could back up where,
yeah, so the clock will only stay as I am progressing through. So I'll call out the times that we decide to stay at. So right now we are at 12 o'clock noon, and I'll back it to 9 a.m. So now we're at 11:30,
okay,
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you guys can see the clock in the lower right-hand corner.
and John, just to clarify, this is the time of the year that is the shadowing is the most significant. Is this correct? Around December 21st?
Correct. The winter solstice is December 22nd, which is the shortest day of the year, where the sun is at the longest for
Okay,
the shadows. So this is the day that has the most repercussions.
yes. And would,
Go ahead.
okay, one of the questions I had asked about this study is, and this is what I'm trying to get at here, is this earliest time that you're starting here is 9 o'clock. Can you go back a little earlier than 9? I'm seeing house on Julian Road at 9 o'clock is 90% of the house is in shadow, but I'd like to see what happens when we're before 9 o'clock in the.
Correct. Yes, I can push it back forward, but keep in mind that the sun truly does not really rise until about 7:30, and it doesn't really become prominent until closer to the 8:30 hour. So this is all computer generated. So just keep that in mind as I roll back.
I understand.
So we're at 8:30
Yep.
and about 8 a.m., which is closer to sunrise, or when the day really starts. So 8 a.m.
Okay, and 7:30 would be the best. I'd just like to see the earliest.
Sure.
So in actuality, when we went in the morning session, which was on December 11th, Councilor O'Hara and Cox were there with me. The house to the left of the corner house in front of us was actually currently half shadowed because of the existing structures of the boats and everything else, which was kind of interesting. Just so that the shadowing in this section is this time of year was pretty significant. So I just wanted to mention that because we did catch a glimpse of that, and it was right around the same time in the morning. I think our meeting started at 8. This was probably about 8:15, 8:20 where we got to see that. So anyway,
Yes,
continue.
and that was the, and if you can you hear me
Wait.
now? It's
Yeah,
Patrick.
could I ask, I'm not sure excuse me. I'm not sure what's being shown on the screen right now. But is that 7:30 a.m.?
Correct. This is 7:30.
Okay, and that's what we're seeing on the right is the shadow is at that point. The sun has been up for half an hour or whatever, but at this point, all of the homes, including up to the third house on Essex Avenue from Julian Road, are in shadow of the building, correct?
I don't think that's correct. I think one thing that needs to be clear is that this isn't the shadow that's cast by the building. This is the shadows that are cast by the building as well as the other buildings. Is that correct, John?
That is correct. Yes. So keep in mind that also when we look at this model,
Okay.
this is a end of the world scenario where we only could go as far as our scan goes for the modeling.
Madam Chair.
And so the same thing goes for the other side of the property. And this is also taking into consideration there was no environment, no clouds, no sky. So this is a pristine environment.
So John and
Yes.
Patrick, so what other buildings would be the factors then, other than the 55-foot roof and 40-foot corners of the new building that would be affecting those houses at 7:30 in the morning?
Well, as we go forward, if you look on the very upper part of your screen, you'll see a shadow it'll all open for a little bit as we go. So the building's on the very far side of our project. So if you see to the right, the very upper right, that shadow that's disappearing as we go, that could be the Gull. That could be one of Boatworks 2, which sits on the far side of the building. So
Okay.
at that time of year, any building coming off the horizon is going to cast a very long and deep shadow. So what we try to do is really start more at the 8:30 or 9 o'clock and show what other neighbors, an example, 105 Essex, 108 Essex, and 101 Essex, right in front. As we go forward again, you'll see that our building per se is not doing the majority of that shadowing. It's themselves that are doing the shadowing. So as we move forward,
Patrick, you're
Right now,
you're
John,
sounding
what
like
time are
you're
we
in a
at?
tunnel again.
Yeah.
Patrick?
Patrick, it's very hard to hear you. I'm wondering if we should have John explain it since we can hear him, where you're
Madam
fading
Chair.
in and out quite a bit.
Yeah, I can absolutely
okay,
take
John,
over.
take it.
Sure. So what Patrick was getting at is right here at the corner of our building, you can see where our shadow is. And then if we look at 101 Essex, you can see the line of the shadow from that building, how it's already taking over the buildings behind it. And this is already at 8 a.m. So the further we move into the day, closer to 9, we're already out of shadow. And the only other building that is in our shadow is 4 Julian Road. And then by 10 a.m., it's almost completely out of shadow. And then as the day progresses further on, the trees and the neighboring houses start to shadow all the other neighboring properties behind it.
Right. But at 7:30 a.m., that house back on Julian Road is totally in the shadow of your building, correct?
Correct.
Bring it back and look at it,
But
John.
yes,
Thank
that's
you.
also not taking into consideration anything else that's on the property. If we had boats or we had masts or if there was any other thing in that area that would take up the sun, it would do.
Yeah, no, understand.
Okay, and so that's, this is December, which is the worst time. Do you want to show us some other times? I saw that your slides get into that. Is that possible?
Yes, I can easily show you the other solstice. So we'll go to the summer solstice at 9 a.m.
Okay,
And here you can see that there's no shadows in the morning. And if we progress through the summer solstice, you can see how the shadow just disappears behind the building altogether. And then if we go into the spring equinox,
Again, would you go on the, I'm sorry. Whoa. On the summer solstice, would you again go back at, I'd appreciate if whenever we're doing this, we do actually start at 7:30. I understand, you know, the explanation of what's going on, but that gives me the best understanding of the start of the day. That's all.
there, okay. From here on out, the four pieces of, or the 4 parts of the year will start at 7:30. So what's on the screen right now is 7:30 a.m. on June 22nd. And
Thank
if we do
you.
this- Yep, if we do the same for the spring equinox at 7:30. And then at the fall. And then we'll take the fall into the day, since that's leading into the winter months. By 8 o'clock, all buildings are out of shadow.
I think it's also important to note that on December 22nd, the sunrise is approximately at 7:30 in the morning. So that is when everyone will be coming out of shadow because the sun is just coming up.
Can we see that cycle again one more time? That solstice right there, please? Through the chair?
Yeah,
Which-
which one, Steve? The fall one? or
This, yeah,
the-
this one that they had up, I think,
Okay,
the one they just showed.
the last
Okay.
one, John?
Yep, so the fall equinox at 7:30 is here.
Okay.
And then by 7:55,
Perfect, thank you.
you're welcome.
And again, if we can note that other buildings in the neighborhood have got their neighboring homes still in shadow when our shadow is gone.
And also to keep into consideration all of the foliage and all the trees. So even right now, these are computer generated. They're not maybe seasonally completely accurate, but it gives a good depiction of the size and the scale of when in full bloom.
Yep,
You can see that how they're already shadowing all the neighboring houses.
okay, so if you were to summarize this, the houses that are most affected are basically the two on Julian Road, the one in the corner and then the one next to it. Is that correct?
If at all, I would say 4 Julian Road would be the one that's the most affected, because the one at 101 Essex has this main tree and there's a lot of foliage along this border that is not in the model.
Okay,
So this would be the only real contender.
Council Gilman?
Right, that was, I would agree with that comment in the sense that that's why I kept on asking for time-wise, and because from what I was seeing that the earliest times of the day that I believe it's 4 Julian Road, the house, you know, the second house in from Essex Avenue is the house that is the building structure that is most affected by the shadowing from your proposed building.
okay, thank you. Counselor Nolan
Thank
has
you.
a question.
Can we see the shadow without the new proposed building?
Unfortunately not. The model doesn't allow me to pick and pull pieces out of it at this point. That would have to be something that we would have to produce at a later point.
So John, that doesn't show us a true difference in what's going on tonight. We just see what's going to happen when the building's there, but not what is actually going on now, which I see when I drive by is a sunshine-filled neighborhood.
Well, the discussion of tonight's conversation is about the building itself, not what's currently there. So that's what we've had prepared.
I beg to differ. I believe that it's definitely about what is there now, what may be there now. So I think that the work that you put into it to show us the building, we should be able to see what happens without the building to give us a realistic idea other than what we see in person. And in person, I see a lot more sunlight.
And I think it is important to mention that the shadow for 4 Julian Road is in December, essentially. The rest of the time of the year, it is out of shadow at the 7:30 time period. And I don't know what would go into determining shadows with what's there now. Obviously, the boats that are in that area change over time. So I don't know how complicated or expensive it is to do another study, but that's something that we certainly can look at and
think
see
the
whether or
study
not
would-
we're able to do that.
I think the study would be an expense brought by the applicant, not the people that may be affected by this. And as of right now, all I see is a change, not what is actually there. So I would really like to see what would happen if the building isn't there versus what it is. And right now you just show me shadows. Thank you.
And thank you,
Well,
Councilor
we-
Nolan. I
we-
understand your concern, and typically with a shadow study, this is what we would show is how our building would impact that. So that's why, that's what we're showing tonight. John, did you have
I
something
do-
to say? Patrick?
If I am coming across garbled, I apologize, but it is important to note, we can only create shadows from our own building, but coming off of the ocean at a sunrise, any building in the distance is going to cast some shadow until a certain time of day. Anything on that horizon is going to cast a shadow. So we do not have the ability and definitely don't have the funding to go out and to shoot all the way to the boulevard of any building that might be casting a shadow from sunrise all the way over. So it would be subjective at best of whatever we would produce without our building.
Councilor Gilman?
Yep, go ahead, Council Nolan.
So basically, the funding is an issue, and what you'd show us what is there now versus what you propose. I don't want to sound like a mean person, but it is a neighborhood, and the size of the building is huge. The shadowing is important to what we may find when it comes to public hearing. The difference from what I see now on that neighborhood, which I visit daily, versus what you're showing me now, is still showing me a large amount of shadowing. So I wouldn't mind seeing a slide or two of what the actual shadowing looks like now. Now, I know this is only at committee level, but I'm just trying to ask you for some information that I may want to see at council level. Thank you.
If I may ask, would current photographs, time-stamped photographs, appease in sunrise time? Real life photos.
So I will ask, let me ask the counselors that are on the subcommittee, Barry and Jen. Do you feel like that would be acceptable?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that? I'm
I-
cutting in and out.
The question was, would time-stamped photographs be acceptable to show how it looks now versus instead of how it looks with the anticipated building? That was the question. That was the question in the answer, the question that was asked.
That would be fine with me.
I would have a problem with that in that I would have a problem with having just timestamp photos. First of all, we're already in we're now at the end of the first week in January. So we're already some 3 weeks past that date. If that had been, available, maybe I could accept it on December 22nd. But I would agree with Councilor Nolan that I would like to be able to see the best study that could be provided to us. That's one of my two biggest concerns for this project is the shadowing. So I would like to get every bit of information that we can to be able to make a reasonable decision for the application, for the applicant on this project. I know the applicant has put in a tremendous amount of money into this, and it's a very large business that contributes a lot to our community, and I'd like to be able to give them definitely give them a fair shake as to looking at this. But I do have concerns, and one of the two biggest concerns is the shadowing, and I would really like to be able to see us see what Councilor Nolan is asking for.
Right.
Madam Chair, I agree with Councilor Pat. He brings up some excellent points.
Thank
and
you.
I do have concerns about the shadowing as well.
Okay.
So, yes.
So let's keep, so I guess I will ask the applicant, Tobin, Drew, Peter, John, and Deb, if this is important to the council, we could, it might be worth your while to see if you could accommodate this question that was asked by Councilor Nolan, just because it's kind of an important question to add to have answered based on what I'm hearing right now.
We will definitely take that into consideration and do our best for you, and keep in mind that we agree with you wholeheartedly. There's nothing about the shadowing that we disagree with. I do want to make notes that during the walkthroughs on the 10th, that I did point out to council members to take note of the shadowing that was taking place at that time by neighbors on the other buildings, and that would have been at 8:30 in the morning. And all of those buildings at that time frame were in shadow, not a bright and sunny neighborhood. But and I did make that, and I would like that to be on the record if it could. But we will definitely confer with each other and get back to you on the future shadow study.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Is it too late in the year to have us there again for a follow-up site visit to see it with the existing structures there at a particular time? Just a thought. I mean, in addition to the requests that we have, would that be something that logistically would show us?
Although we're only a month out of solstice, I think it will be very, very helpful for you to come at 7 o'clock and stay for an hour or two and watch what the neighborhood really looks like at that time frame.
Okay. So, but I also want to make sure that I'd like to see this question answered, but Councilors Holgram and Pat, would you be opposed to doing that on our next sunny day and getting there early in the morning at the time just to see it? If that is
I would not be opposed.
Personally, I don't feel a need to go see it at this point. I'm able to do it, first of all, on my own time, but being, again, the most concerning time of the year is on December 22nd. We're past that at this point, and I wish I had maybe gone over and taken a look at December 21st or December 22nd and seen at that time of day. But to me, that's the study as requested by Councilor Nolan would be the best thing at this point. I'm not sure that a site visit, scheduled, another 3 or 4 days from now or whatever is going to show what we're looking at. We're going to have lost, by that time, 3 to 4 weeks. And that's over half an hour of time that it's changed. And then the angle of the sun has started, to rise. It's changing more at the end of the day at this maybe more rapidly, but it has started in the morning.
I would be willing to go by myself as well.
Okay.
I could even, go tomorrow morning.
So, yeah, and I would like to do the same. So, I guess Patrick and John, what time would be the best time for us to go, just to see this for ourselves, if counselors want to do that right now?
Well,
Is it
what-
7?
Well, I think 7 might be a little early for you, but if you would like to go that early, we can. But I would be happy to meet you there at any time you'd like to go. If we go at 7 now, I would say it would probably be at least an hour to an hour and a half venture.
That's a long morning.
It looks like it's going to be overcast tomorrow. Friday is going to be pretty clear though.
Okay. So why don't we make this optional? We'll show up like at 7:30 on Friday for perhaps an hour just to kind of view it. Anyone that's able to do it, just come. But make sure that we social distance completely, wear your masks, and not congregate. So let's just make that flexible. But I also think that, I'd really like the applicant to think a little bit about the specific importance of what we're requesting, but we'll also take a look ourselves. Is that an agreement? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's,
Again, our only concern about, if I may, our only concern about producing it would not necessarily be monetary, would it be that we wouldn't be able to make it as accurate as it's going to be in real life, because we're not going to be able to capture buildings that are on the boulevard or on their way down Essex Avenue. There's no way for us to be able to do that. So it's not a question of, we can do the legwork and remove our building. It's just, it will not be a true representation of, because we cannot produce the shadows that will be there. We don't have capability. So it won't be a real presentation, but we can remove our building, but there definitely needs to be a footnote of that.
okay.
I think we need to talk amongst ourselves more about this and what
Okay.
solutions there are to give you the information that you're looking for. So
Okay. And if you
obviously
did-
this is a new question for us. So we do,
right, exactly. And it's an important question. So we appreciate
Absolutely.
that, Deb. And then if you feel like we need to continue the public hearing from next week, if we're not ready to have this information, then just let us know. Give Council LeBlanc a heads up. And
well, if I might just comment on that, it appears that the committee may not be ready to vote tonight without having that additional
oh,
information.
that's a good point. Now, I'm seeing a nod from Council Holgram and Council Pett. So that's a good point. So let's continue, and then we can decide at the end when we have our discussion about the next step.
Okay. Just
So-
a quick, I'm sorry, just a quick point before we go on to the next questions. When we said that for the proposed part of the study, you wouldn't be able to show because of the buildings, say from down towards on the boulevard or something like that. And I would just add that based on what I know or see, that the like the boathouse building, et cetera, those buildings would be the tallest far and away shadow wise for us. And I would think that they would be creating almost like a stop, that nothing further down on the down to the boulevard would be creating more of a shadow than like the boathouse building, et cetera, at this point. But again, that's for you to all discuss, and I'm not an expert on shadows. I'm just trying to get the best information. Thank you.
Understood. And we're trying to get you the information that you need to make a reasoned decision.
Okay, great. Thanks. So let's continue. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a quick question on shadowing, if I may.
Okay, just a question. Sure. Councilor McCarthy?
Where it's a computer-generated model, is it possible to show what the shadowing would be if the building was built to the 35, which is allowable, as opposed to the exemption that we're being asked to grant?
It is possible, just not right at this moment, as we don't have that in the model that I'm showing. So it would be something we would show at a separate point.
I think that would be more important to me, just where you have a matter of right to build to 35 feet, what the shadowing, how it increases with the exemption you're asking us for.
Well, the only issue, Counselor, is that it's actually 30 feet, 30 to 35 it requires ZBA.
Right, and they've already given it, I think, right? Or
I don't think ZBA weighed in on 35 or 30 to 35 foot. I think they were more involved with the frontage variance, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yes, there wasn't any need to ask for a height waiver from the ZBA because we were over 35 feet. So that's all in the control of the city council.
Okay, well, whatever the exemption you're asking us for, I think there's going to be considerable shadowing with what you can build by a matter of right. That's all.
Madam Chair, I want to make sure we're not deliberating if it's,
Oh, you mean with other members of the council?
right, who are not on the
yeah,
same committee.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we answered John's question. So that's
If
important. Okay,
if that could be the question posed, that could be a much easier approach for us, if we could just do that.
okay. So Council Holgram and Council Pat. We're the deliberating body here right now. So the question is, if the applicant could show us a 30-foot by right versus would that be something that they could provide for us? And I only say that because 30 feet would require the ZBA to weigh in.
I do think that's a reasonable question. I may just go, if it's okay, to Julian and take a look at the property again first thing in the morning on Friday, if nobody has any objections to that, just to see how it is now again, because I was not at the morning site visit.
And I would like to still, I very much appreciate Councilman McCarthy's question, and that would be a nice thing to see. I'd like to see that, but I would like to also see what Councilor Nolan had requested. So I would like to, personally, I'd like to see both.
Okay, so let's ask the applicant to work on these different options. Counselors can go visit in the morning. I'll be there on Friday if it's a nice morning with sunshine. And I also see a person that is on the call that has a question. So I'm going to allow Susan Hedman to, Grace, if you could allow Susan to talk. But Susan, this is not a public hearing. This is only an opportunity to ask questions. So please make sure that you're not discussing this. So go ahead.
I was wondering about the potential
Susan?
for,
Susan, could you just tell us your name and your address, if you would?
Susan Hedman, 86 Bond Street.
Okay.
And I wondered about potential flooding in the area.
Okay. So we've been covering that so that's a little bit different than what we're talking about right now in terms of shadowing. And that's covered in the presentation. So I would suggest that you review the Zoom meeting of the meeting back in May and take a close look at the presentation and the information. And then if that question still exists, then we encourage you to come back to the council and we can ask that question at the next meeting. Okay, is that fair? Okay.
It's just,
terrific.
Living nearby, I've seen the water come over that road.
Okay,
So-
well, we are, that's kind of, so let's, I ask that you go back and look at the presentation because this isn't the public hearing tonight. So thank you.
Okay, well, you had put it on your
Madam
page.
Chairperson, I also
Thank
see
you.
that Peter Canavo has his hand raised.
Okay, thank you, Council Pat. Peter, you're in a butter. Would you introduce yourself and make sure you're asking a question? Thank you. Grace, would you welcome Peter in? Great. You're still, okay, here he is. Go ahead, welcome Peter. Your address, please.
Hi, how are you? Peter Canavo. I reside at 103 Essex Ave.
Okay.
Don't mind the baby screaming in the background. Go, buddy. I had a question. I know on the height of the building and the shadow study, is there a possibility, and I don't mean to steer a little bit too far, to do a more accurate balloon test, quote unquote balloon test, just to really make sure that the neighbors, the council members, and everybody have a very clear understanding of what the actual height is of the building when we went out for that site visit. Because, I mean, I trust that the Dominics absolutely did it to the best of their ability. But providing that, there's always a little bit of concern that a foot or two could be at a plus, and I think that could, you know, impact a great deal on the height and reflecting on our property. So that was just something I just want to address, and I appreciate everybody doing what they're doing. So thank you. Be safe out there.
Thank you, Peter. So Councillor Pat and Holgram, on that request, that ask, I felt, I mean, I felt very comfortable with the process that we used to have that piece of equipment go to the center of the proposed building and be raised up 55 feet. And then I thought 3 of the 4 corners were carefully marked at 40. And I think we spent a lot of time at the 4th corner, the one closest to the Causeway restaurant, understanding that that was maybe off the mark by 3 or 4 feet because of the electrical wires. But I felt comfortable in having been at site visits with balloons. I don't feel like the balloons are very accurate, but Council Holgram and Pat, I guess I asked you to weigh in. I have great respect for Peter, and I just want to make sure that that you are both in agreement that you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do agree with your idea of the balloon study, and I appreciate Peter's question. I understand where he's coming from. Others have posed that question to me as well. I would be concerned about the accuracy of a balloon test, considering the possible wind in the area. And I myself feel that I got a good grasp of the height of the building, the potential height of the building, with the equipment that was made available that day.
Great, thank you.
I had made some of the suggestions as to how we were going to go ahead and find that information out, etc. And even though I think you don't get a great understanding of how large the structure is when you just see, you know, a flag at the height of the, you know, say the peak at 55 feet or the corners of the building, individual corners at 40 feet. So I don't know how we could better show it. And I'm not sure that a balloon would do that, but I did see that the lift, matter of fact, one of their, I think, almost brand new lifts, you can just tell by the nomenclature on the lift that it was it was at 40 feet and it was at its full extension. So that, you know, confirmed to me the 40 feet part, which is on the corners of the building. So I'm comfortable with that. It was the best presentation we could make. I'm not sure that it, you know, gives us a true idea of the building, but that's for us to interpret, you know, from what we saw and to go from there.
Okay, thank you. So I'm ready to go on. So Deb, would you continue with the questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just do want to mention that the Dominics were obviously very concerned about making sure that it was an accurate representation of the height of the building. And that's why balloons were not used, because that would not have been accurate. So
Mhm.
they were very careful to make sure that the corners were at the correct height. As a Councilor Pett pointed out, they were able to determine that with the machines. So if John could take his screen down, I can share mine again and we can go back to the questions.
Great, thank you.
And just saying that Pietro Canavo still does have his hand up. I don't know if he was just following up or what, Madam Chairperson, that's up to you.
Let me just, I have him down as, Peter, do you have a follow-up question to that, or? I don't see your hand having been raised.
Hi. No, I didn't have a follow-up. And just to clarify, when I meant balloon test, I didn't I should have said, a balloon obviously wouldn't be accurate. We have technology today that you can shoot a laser and it'll tell you the distance, or you could use a drone, but that might be a little bit sophisticated for some of the people on the board. I know it's not the old balloon test,
Yeah,
but that was it.
Yeah, and I'm not real gung ho about a drone, because I think that there's a liability to a drone over all the masts and everything there.
No, absolutely. And I respect your decision wholeheartedly. I just wanted to point that out. I didn't mean a balloon particular. If there was something else, but I appreciate you guys. So no worries. I'm listening in. And if my hand's up, I didn't mean to put it up.
Okay. Well, anyway, we always enjoy talking to you, Peter. So
likewise.
all right. So let's continue. Thank you. Go ahead, Deb. Sorry. Deb, I don't hear you. You got your mute.
Yes, I see that.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. What type of power is required for the boat transport equipment? How loud is it? Electric or propane, depending on the machinery. It is not too loud. All hydraulic trailers are battery operated and have only a faint hum from an electric motor. The tractor to move the trailers is gas, and the forklift is propane. Can you illustrate how boat transport trucks will navigate into the large boat entrance door? This is in the May 2020 presentation, and it's slides 21 through 24. And so we've put some of those images here, and it illustrates that how the boat comes out of the water. It's put in the lift, and then it's put on, as I had told you, those blue haulers that move it along. And then it is put onto the trailer and moves from the area here where it is taken out of the water along this path of travel to the back of the building, where it will straighten out and back into the building. And this shows the path of travel, which we had shown before. Again, moving up here and then backing into the building. And this shows the Danversport boat loading and the height you can see at the doors and inside the facility. And I believe that is the end of the questions that we had.
Okay. So just for the public to know, we've been really careful about making sure that we got all the questions from the 3 site visits to be answered, because we were very sensitive to not having any of our 3 groups have more than 10 people because of COVID, but we wanted to move forward to continue with this process. So that's why we agreed to share all the questions as a group very carefully. So I appreciate the detail, and for the public to know as well, The document that Attorney Ellison just showed on the, with all the Q&A, it's in our packet for tonight's meeting. So you can go on City Council, go into standing committees, P&D packet, and you can see the totality of this Q&A. So appreciate it. All right, so Attorney Ellison, before we discuss the next step, do you have anything that you would like to add? Or actually, let Council Pett has his hand raised. So let's.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'm not sure if I had asked a question at the site visit. I thought I had. It may have been at the earlier meeting, but I thought it would be important to get the answer here, especially to those people that are attendees here to listen. And that was the question about whether people that have their boats stored there would be able to work on their boats at all while they're in storage, number one. And if not, was questioning why there were bathrooms, restrooms in the building, and what would be the purpose of them. And I just thought I had asked to get those answers clarified for all of the public.
Okay, Councilor Attorney Ellison, would you answer?
I can. The facility, anyone who is a member of the public or has a boat in the storage facility will need to be accompanied at all times by an employee. It's not going to be a facility that people can just walk in and out. It has to have certain safety protocols in place, and that's one of them. Bathrooms will be available for the employees that will be working in that area and moving boats in and out. I believe it's probably a requirement that there be a bathroom for employees available. So that's the purpose of the bathrooms. People will be able to come in periodically if they want to measure their boat for canvas, for example, or if they want to put things in their boat or take things off of their boat. But again, that will be arranged with an employee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Holgram and Council Pett, any other questions that you would like to have answered at tonight's meeting?
Not at this time. Thank you very much.
I have nothing further at this time either. Thank you.
Okay. So, so I would say, based on this conversation, that we're not ready to make a recommendation to the full council. And I would ask that we would return next week on the 20th, or 2 weeks from now, to that the app will allow the applicant to see what they can pull together to answer some of the questions that we had, specifically about the shadowing survey. And some of us will go and just see for ourselves what we see. And hopefully by then we'll be able to make a decision about the next step. So is that fair, Attorney Ellison?
Yes, I do think that's fair. Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out that I was prepared to go over the legal criteria for the permits. It was a while ago since we looked at this. I don't know whether the committee is interested in doing that or if they want to rely on their review of the earlier meeting.
This is a time check of 7. Council Holgram and Pett, would you like to just ask Attorney Ellison to go through the legal criteria?
Yes, please, especially for the benefit of the attendees.
Okay,
That would be gret. Thank you.
okay.
I think it's reasonable, especially where she's put that presentation together, and we do have, almost a dozen attendees.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks for doing this. Go ahead, Attorney Ellison.
Let me get to where we started. So this project must meet 1.8.3 of the GZO, and these are the requirements of what we must show. With regard to the social and economic aspects and community aspects, The indoor storage is a great fit for this parcel, which is restricted, and it's in the EB district, is also Chapter 91. And the indoor storage meets the criteria as a qualified marine use. It also meets community needs. This type of storage is in high demand locally and regionally, and it will assist Gloucester and the North Shore marine economy both as recreational and commercial boats. And I believe if you had an opportunity to look at the letters and emails that were received there, that shows the local interest in this project. There is a great need here in our own community for this service, and it will also serve commercial vessels. The marine industry has changed over the years, and today's boat systems are much more complex than they were 50 years ago. Repairs and maintenance must be done by trained and authorized technicians, and the marina has that capability. That helps the city economically by providing skilled jobs in Gloucester and continuing training for its employees. Boat prices have increased substantially. In the last 10 years, an average boat package of a 21-foot boat, outboard, trailer was $30,000 10 years ago. Today, it's $65,000. So people want to protect their investments, and the indoor storage will allow them to do that. There's less depreciation, better resale, less services needed to winterize and commission your boat, and less shrink wrap. It's the future of the marine industry. The future is to be full service, and indoor storage is part of that. The project's a natural extension of a longtime Gloucester business that serves the social, economic, and community needs of the city. And this type of investment is necessary to secure the future of the marine industry in Gloucester and the region. Per the Waterways Board, the city's focus and investment on recreational boating since 2016 has resulted in a 300% growth in recreational mooring reservations. That importance of recreational boating to the blue economy is recognized by the state, which gave a $3 million grant to the city to grow its infrastructure to make it a destination for water uses. Many years, the marina has operated as an extension of the harbor, and when municipal areas could not offer certain services, storage or visitation because of permitting restrictions and the designated areas, the marina did that. An indoor boating facility is the next step to continuing this service to Gloucester and making Gloucester a maritime destination. If you look at the letters again that you've received, you see the support for this project. It specifically addresses the uniqueness of Gloucester and its economy from the business owners, from boat owners, as well as fishermen. And this project benefits many segments of our community. The blue economy, as a port city, it's important that the city support its marine-oriented businesses, and the blue economy has become a focus both locally and at the state level. The marina is a big contributor. Before COVID, it was a large employer in the city, and they expect to be a large employer again. They had 300 full and part-time employees in the summer and 150 full and part-time in the off-season. With the new building, it will allow them to keep more people employed full-time instead of laying them off in the winter. And if the demand increases for more labor, then they hope to create more jobs. The marina helps to establish the city as a year-round destination. It's open year-round, its services are year-round. The purpose of the EB district is to encourage businesses like the marina, and the marina's success is the city's success. With regard to traffic flow, there will be no openings on Julian Road, as we said. The two openings are on the marina side and one at the rear. The building access over the two existing entries off of Essex Ave are some distance away from the residences, and they will encourage traffic related to the building away from Julian Road. Boats entering and leaving the building will be coming predominantly from the marina property and not over Julian Road. They'll continue to use the existing entrances and not Julian Road, and customers will never move their boats on their own. Only marina employees will do that. No additional vehicles are expected, simply adding this climate-controlled building. Traffic flow and safety have been satisfied according to the planning board and the city engineer, and the new building will improve traffic flow, parking, and safety in this area. On-site utilities will be updated as necessary and will be adequate to meet the needs of the storage facility. The property is serviced by public water and sewer. It will be heated by gas off an existing line. And all utilities are currently underground for clearance purposes and will remain as such. With regard to neighborhood character and social structure, it's consistent with the uses that are allowed in an EB district. The proposed boat storage falls squarely within these uses and the uses contemplated by Chapter 91. It's a business and a service that serves a regional clientele, and this is expressly the purpose in the EB district. The EB district, as I mentioned earlier, does not allow residential uses. The neighborhood's a mix of residential and commercial uses, and the marina is surrounded on 3 sides by a variety of commercial uses. And it has been in operation since 1972, almost 50 years. Boats have traditionally been stored outside. Moving them into a proposed building will present a neater and more orderly appearance along Essex Avenue, abutting the residential area, provides a nice gateway to boats and the water lifestyle. Also moves a lot of the noise and activity inside the building. Because there are no doors or entrances on Julian Road, the noise and activity will be directed away from the residential area. The building will provide a buffer also between the residential neighborhood and the other activities that take place on the marina property. As I said earlier, Drew and Tobin gave a lot of thought to the location and design. And as I discussed, the factors that go into it are the logistics of moving the boats, the safety of the guests, and the flow and function. They've added design elements such as an awning that make the building more aesthetically pleasing and bring it down to a human scale and more welcoming to the Gloucester lifestyle. Even though the marina is in a business district, they designed the building so as to minimize impact on the residential neighborhood. And this was at a premium cost for the building. It's also been constructed to minimize the impact on the natural environment. A significant portion of the property is comprised of marsh and tidal flats, and it will not be disturbed by the construction. The entire property is in the flood zone and has elevations as low as 8 feet. All of these factors have been taken into consideration. It's located entirely outside of the 100-foot buffer from the coastal bank, and it's only partially within the 200-foot riverfront area, and it will not increase the flooding. That has been determined by both the Conservation Commission as well as DEP. As we discussed a little earlier, the variance that was granted by the ZBA moves the building as far away from the residential neighborhood as possible. It complies with the 2 30-foot front yard setbacks, and it was also reduced in size so that it could meet these setback requirements. It was reduced by 5,000 square feet. The lot coverage will be approximately 25% of the lot, and 50% maximum is allowed in this district. Overall, the quality of the natural environment will be protected while still allowing the projects that will be vital to the marina's continued viability in the marine industry. The fiscal impact is positive. As I said, the marina has operated for almost 50 years. In 2019, they purchased 99A Essex Ave to augment its existing facilities and uses. It's a family-owned and operated business. It focuses on the needs of local residents, commercial businesses, and visitors, and it's a destination by sea or land. It's full service year-round for boat storage in and out of water. It has a full fuel dock, pump out, boat launching, hauling services, marina service repairs, boat engine trailer sales, and electronic sales and installations. It serves both recreational and commercial vessels and our fishing vessels up to 100 feet. Supports other marine businesses. It has large fishing, diving, and sightseeing charter businesses that run out of its facility. It also hosts many visitors and events that impact our city's economy. The resort is an amenity of the city, draws visitors year-round, and also seek out to patronize other visitors. Because it's year-round, its impact can be felt all year. The proposed building will allow the marina to store boats that are both large and small in a temperature-controlled facility. The facilities are highly desirable and able to accommodate large boats without going over land because many of these boats cannot. It's a growing demand in Gloucester and industry-wide. And establishing this type of facility in Gloucester will make Gloucester a more permanent destination for many boaters that might otherwise go elsewhere. More visitors to Gloucester creates more economic opportunities for all Gloucester businesses and the city as a whole. Adding the building will also increase the assessed value of the property and add commercial tax revenue to the city's tax rolls. The blue economy is important to the state and it's important to Gloucester. The marina supports the commercial fleet with its services, storage, fuel, ice, parts, and hosts many of their guests. It's always available for emergencies 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, which is a very valuable and often unheard of amenity. It also, all of this augments the fiscal impact of this project. With regard to the marine-related storage use, all of the criteria that I talked about in 1.8.3 make it clear that this property is suitable for a boat storage facility. It's entitled to a special permit under the GZO for this purpose, and the EB district fully supports this type of use, and approval of the project, as I said, will augment the blue economy that Gloucester seeks to encourage. With regard to height, the EB district recognizes that there are circumstances under which a building must be higher than 30 or 35 feet. It allows a special permit in those instances. It doesn't prohibit a taller building, not seeking a variance from the ordinance. We're seeking permission from the ordinance, and there's a big difference. So this is something that's allowed, and in this instances, it's commercially necessary. The 30-foot height should not be rigidly adhered to. It's an appropriate instance in which to grant an exception. It's consistent with the neighborhood character. We went through that in detail, and it's not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. No evidence of obstruction of views. The overshadowing, we're still talking about that, and we will get you information to support our position with regard to that. The only property that is minimally affected are the two properties along Julian Road. The other properties in the neighborhood are unaffected, and I think we can provide you information that will show that. And there's no other impairment of utilities. With regard to the lowland permit criteria, it's warranted because the proposed building will not pose a hazard to the health or safety of the occupants. There will be no occupants of the building. None of the hazardous criteria under this section 5.5.3 are met. The proposed structure is for indoor boat storage. It's not intended for human occupancy. Therefore, there's no floor level less than 12 feet for human occupancy. The property is served by public utilities. Therefore, there's no individual sewage disposal systems or water supplies that are subject to interruption or inundation in the event of coastal flooding to 10 feet elevation. And the methods of filling or excavation are not subject to displacement by coastal flooding to 10 feet. The proposed concrete foundation will not be displaced by coastal flooding due to the proposed foundation design. With regard to the Beauport easement, parking easement, we will provide you with the additional information that has been requested by the council. And also, it's our position that we have properly requested any approvals that we need and that this is an appropriate relocation and allowed under both the council permit as well as the easement.
Great,
And I think that's about it.
great. Councilors Pat and Holgram, any additional questions as a result of reviewing all this? No?
No, thank you. Thank you,
Okay,
Deb. I appreciate you going over that.
thank you.
Welcome.
So I think we're ready to summarize and adjourn the meeting. So I think that this was really helpful to go through the questions in great detail. And it was nice to have members of the council sitting in and listening. And I also think that putting it off for 2 weeks right now will help us be better prepared for the next decision. And that's basically, I think, getting together the information about the Beauport parking easement. That was a request, a question that came up, and I think that that will be helpful to bring forward, as well as any more information on the shadowing. So we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you for having your entire team on the call. If there's no other things to talk about, Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, let's do a roll call. Council Holgram,
Yes.
Council Pep.
yes, be safe, everyone.
Thank you. Council Gilman, yes. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.